I'd like to talk a little bit about how to create a balanced scorecard for some business unit, for some business direction. And for this video, I wanted to show how to create a balanced scorecard for customer service. Why customer service, and what will you learn from this video? Customer service is something that exists in any business, in any company. So we decided to use this business unit as an example because it is more or less universal, because the ideas that we'll discuss will sound more familiar for most business owners and business managers. And about the question about the main takeaways from this video, is actually the process that stands behind the balanced scorecard design. As a result, you will be able to create something that you see on the screens as a kind of strategy map. But what is more important is that you will be able to do it step by step. You'll be able to analyze virtually any business unit and any business process, and think about it from the viewpoint of strategy execution, and respectively build a strategy scorecard, and use it to improve your strategy execution process in your company. The first step that I always suggest to start with is to build a kind of model for the domain that you want to deal with. And in the case with the customer service, I suggest to build a kind of process model or business model for the customer service, which obviously start with a question from a customer. And then we have several options. One of the options is that customer goes directly to your knowledge base and can find an answer to his or her question without contacting your customer service. And that's one option. Another option is a customer is contacting your company. And when contacting your company, normally a customer is attended by a first line agent, which is normally a less qualified persons that cost your company less. And then if the problem is not solved on this level, it is transferred to the next level, which is a second line agent, and so on and so forth. So the point is that in this case, the customer query is processed by your customer service team. Now, a company is supposed to learn from what was done. You can analyze a knowledge base. You can check out for the questions that were searched in knowledge base and the answers that were found. There are various technical ways to do this, and the same happens when the question is processed by your customer service agents. And the company is supposed to be learning from this in some way. So that's how a general approach to customer service looks like. And in your company, it might be different. For sure, it will be different. The point is that that's the starting point for any further analysis of your strategy. If you have any other ideas, any other ways to come up with a strategy, to define your strategy, to understand your strategy, then you might do it without this model. I find this approach more helpful, as that's a good starting point to get all members of the discussion on the same page. Now, we have a customer service model, and then we need to come up with some response plan. It's not exactly the response plan as a step-by-step plan to answer all the difficulties that one might have, because we're designing a strategy scorecard. And in this case, it makes sense to focus on strategic questions. Strategic in this case means something that is going to change the way you do business, that will introduce some improvements to your business, and not just a small improvement, but improvements that actually matters in the scale of your business. So what about response plan? You can do a kind of brainstorming, and we can do it just now with some general ideas, and we'll see what we can apply. First of all, we can, before a customer contacts you, before a customer has a question, normally this customer is using your solution, your product, your service, whatever. And the first thing that you can do to prevent customer from contacting you is to make a product or service more user-friendly. Yeah, so if it's kind of self-explaining, it's obvious how to use it, customer doesn't need to open any manual, any instruction, it's the best case if your product is that simple. Unfortunately, it's not always possible to solve 100% of such questions, and we always have customers who will contact our customer service. So another step that we can do, that we can work with, is to improve the knowledge base. What we can do about knowledge base, it depends on your specific business. You might want to add some new articles in your knowledge base so that this will make more sense for your customers. Or you can introduce some new ways to assess your knowledge base. It depends on your model, on your business. So that's where I see another improvement process for your strategy regarding customer service. Now, what about this block? Customer is contacting you, and obviously customer can use several means, like contacting you by phone, writing emails, contacting you on social media. So you can work with this. You can also address the problem of training your employees, training your agents. Obviously that first line agent will cost your company less. So one of the points to work with is to make sure that first line agent are able to respond more questions from the clients without transferring the question to the second line agent. And a general direction would be to train your agents more in order to make it less painful for your customers, and in the end make your agents more efficient and effective. That's the idea. Now, customer is learning from what was from the information obtained during the previous steps, and what those previous steps might be about. It might be those steps might be about finding some problem in the product that you have. And sometimes customers report a problem or suggest some interesting feature to be added in your product. And the point is that this information is very valuable for your business. And why should you lose it? Why don't you create processes to ensure that this information is captured and transferred to your developers, to your research team, to marketing team? And the same happens with knowledge base. Sometimes people search something in knowledge base, and this gives us clues about what can be added in our product, what can be improved, how we can change the way we market our product, how we can change the ways that we support our clients. So these all are a great direction to focus your learning efforts. And one of the initiatives that is normally a problem in most of the companies are informational silos between different business units that prevent a normal informational exchange. So I put here a general goal to break these informational silos. Not breaking silos, but informational silos. Now, Another layer of analysis that I suggest you to do is to have a look at the diagram that you have right now and answer some questions about the costs. Where do you think are the main costs for this diagram, for this process? And if we start discussing these costs, we'll find out that knowledge base has some costs for running it, for maintaining it, and for sure first line agent also have some costs with maintaining them, with training them, with paying salary and so on and so forth. And normally this cost is much more than the cost of running and maintaining knowledge base. And for sure we have second line agents, which are normally a bigger cost, because second line agents are persons more educated, more trained, more experienced, and as a result their job costs our company more. That's three models that we have discussed, three diagrams. And now I think we're ready to go ahead with the actual strategy map design. And before doing this, I assume that many people will have questions like this. Why we use this very model? What other models can we use? Can we use other models? What can be a better solution in a case of, let's say, running HR department, or when someone need to map some strategy related to a whole company, or a strategy related to certain projects, certain products, and so on and so forth. My point of view here that you can use whatever model you want until it helps you to understand your strategy better. Because Balanced Scorecard is about strategy execution. And what we want to achieve a better understanding of strategy. And on the next step, we're going to map some ideas about the strategy. We're going to map business goals. We're going to map how they're related to each other. We're going to discuss some ways to measure the strategy execution, strategy and performance of certain goals. But it all makes sense only if we do understand what our strategy is, and use whatever model you have to understand your strategy better. Sometimes it makes sense to check out how the value is created. Sometimes it makes sense to focus more on bottlenecks, on processes, on costs. Whatever model helps, use it. That's my recommendation. Now I'm going to create a Balanced Scorecard strategy map for this Balanced Scorecard and BC Designer. And I will use a BC Designer online for this purpose. You can find it on this link, webbc.com. And you also can use BC Designer Pro for this purpose, but I prefer to use a cloud-based version, as it's cross-platform, and actually I can use it from whatever device I need. And let's get started. And also I have opened the model that with the diagram that we have created, that I have showed you on the previous steps, to have it in front of my eyes. Now I can log into my account, and if you want to try it, you have an option to create a free trial account, or if you prefer to try it in BC Designer Pro, you can download a free trial version. Okay. Now I'm on site, and I see here my organization structure, and what I'm going to do is to create a new project, probably a new organization group as well. The group can be called customer service, and respectively a new project will be placed here. And for the new project, I will choose this option for an empty project with the 4 perspectives. And what I need to do is to put some name here, customer service. I don't need to fill it with random data, so I create this project and wait in a few seconds until the project is loaded. Now, what I have here is a blank project without any goals, without any indicators, and I can see this blank strategy map. The first thing that we can do is to change this mission statement that we have on the top. What is a mission statement? It's a kind of inspiring statement that will motivate your team, that will work as a big goal for your team. So we can change it here. I need to select go to business goals tab. I need to select the root element, Balanced Scorecard, and I need to click this button here. And what might be a mission statement for this case? What about ensure quick and effective conversation between client and the company? It's quite a generous statement, but for the purpose of the demonstration, it will work excellent. Now, if I will rebuild the strategy map that I have here, I will see this statement here on the top. Okay, great. Now, we can start mapping goals. And the first perspective that we have here is the financial perspective. And what might be the goal for the financial perspective? Let's get back to this diagram that we have discussed. And from the financial point of view, one of the goal might be to reduce these costs that we have here. Cost to maintain knowledge base, cost to related to with the first line agent, cost related to second line agent. And let's add this goal. And we can formulate it as something general like reduce costs for the customer service. Again, if I go to the strategy map, I see that this goal has appeared here. And needless to say that there are some other goals in the financial perspective that are implied. For example, we all want this whole idea to work, and we want that it is aligned with all other goals of the company. So the main goal of a commercial company is to generate profit, to achieve the goals, the stakeholders' interests, to achieve certain profit goals, certain revenue goals. And one option is to add these goals here. Another option is to just keep them in mind when we are going to discuss to map all the rest of the goals. We know that customer service itself won't generate specific profits because it's not related to, let's say, sales or something like this. But we keep in mind that one of the goals that we have is to increase our profits. And one of the way to increase profits is for sure to reduce costs. So let's try adding some indicators that we can use in this case as a way to measure our progress or our performance towards this goal. I'm going into the KPIs step here, and I can create a new indicator. The first obvious indicator that I wanted to map is costs per inbound contact. Let's put some random value here, And one thing that we want to minimize this cost, not maximize. And target obviously cannot be 0, as probably it's not really possible to reduce the costs of customer support to 0, but let's be realistic. Let's put here something like 25. And the baseline is our starting point for this optimization. We can put here 30, or we can put here some historical value, whatever we need. And now we need to align this KPI with this business goal. Because if I go to strategy map, my business goal is there, but KPI is not there. So I need to align this KPI here with this business goal. How I do this? I have here a button, link KPI, and I just check this KPI. Now I can see my KPI here, and one improvement I think that my business goals are not that big to fit the strategy map, so I cannot read the whole map. So I prefer to change the business goals width here to 226, so it will be a little bit wider. Yeah, now it's better. Just for case, saving my project. And another important aspect from the viewpoint of this business goal, this indicator, cost per inbound contact, is a leading indicator or it's a lagging indicator. For sure it's a lagging indicator in this context. So what I can do, I can go to business goals, I can find the KPI there. As you see, the properties of the KPI are not the same as if I would select it here. Here I have the properties of the KPI, and here I have the properties of the KPI related to this connection to this business goal. And one thing that I can do is to choose that to select this indicator is lagging one. And if I go to strategy map, you might have noticed that the color of this line has now changed. Now, what I can do to improve it a little bit more, I have here measure unit option, and I can change it to, let's say, US dollars. And let's go to business goal and see how it's displayed. So I can change the way that it is displayed on strategy map. For example, I want to see on strategy map the current value, and I also want to see a gauge diagram. So now this goal with this indicator, it looks like this one. Now more KPIs. Let's create a new KPI for the same business goal. We have a lagging KPI, but what about leading KPI? What might be a leading KPI in this case? I will remember that their goal is to reduce cost for the customer service. So what indicator might probably predict that the cost for the customer service will be reduced? In this case, let's think about, we can think about different ways to measure this, different ways to predict this. Something related to the knowledge base that will predict that customers will use knowledge base more. Something related to this part, and probably we can use one of the indicators for this pair, because we see that the cost for the first line agent are less than the cost for the second line agent. So if we could make first line agent to answer the questions better, then we can expect that the costs will go down. It's logical in this case because less we'll need less second line agents, and the whole process will be more efficient and effective. So the new indicator might be as simple as first line resolution rate. And in this case, for the measure units, we use %, and we want to actually maximize it, yeah, because we want to achieve preferably 100% when we have an excellent team that is able to resolve all queries themselves. And I do need to repeat these steps again. I need to select this goal here, reduce cost for the customer service, and I'll link this KPI, first line resolution rate. And I can choose that this KPI is leading one, and I can choose to visualize value again, and not value chart but value. And this glyph is fine. Well, let's see what we have here. Now we have this indicator here, and I think it also makes sense to move this indicator to the top. Okay, this function is not yet there. Okay, so we have our business goal, and we have 2 indicators, but this is just one business goal for just one perspective. And the next question is what business goal should we map in a customer's perspective? And what do we normally map there? Normally we map there what customers want from our business. In this case, we need to map there what customers want from customer service. And that's one idea. Typical mistake is to map there what we want from customers. No, it's wrong. We need to map there what customers want from us. And another issue, another nuance here, that who are the customers? Because we normally deal with we think about external customers, those who end users of our product. But there are also internal customers. Let's say those might be our partners or representatives of other business units, or some outsourcing companies that we use, some partner companies that we use. So we need to think about this as well, just for a case that you will be designing this scorecard for yourself. So let's go back to this diagram. What customers might want from this whole diagram, from this whole model? Probably they want to use knowledge base more, and they want knowledge base to be really good. They want knowledge base to be easy to use, easy to assess, easy to find information, and for sure the information should be there. And that's one thing that they want to do, want from our company, from our customer service. And what about this part? If customer goes this way, the general goal is to have a kind of effective and efficient conversation with our company. What does it mean in your particular case? I'm not sure. So I will map this as a kind of umbrella goal, and for the purpose of the demonstration. So I'm creating new goals here, which is the first goal that I have mentioned is easy to use knowledge base. That's the first goal. And what about the second goal? As we have discussed, it will be quick and effective conversation between a client and the company. Now I'm going to stretch the map, and I see the new goals here. And one thing that I can do is to link these goals. And it's not just a link. As you can see, this message asks me if I want to add a cause and effect connection to this goal, and I agree. And I'm doing the same for another goal. Yes. So what we have just did. If I go here, go back to business goals and select this business goal, I can see that now this goal is contributing to the goal of reducing costs. And it's really important because now we understand why we're doing this, why we're giving customer easy knowledge base access, why we want to be more efficient and effective in a conversation between a client and a company. Because this will lead to reducing costs. And this is crucial for all further discussions about the strategy, all future discussions about the strategy. Because if you don't understand this link, you will suggest a lot of goals that customers will like, but those goals not necessarily lead you to achieving your financial results. And if you don't understand, this link actually shows you that you do understand how this is linked to this. And if you don't understand how this is supposed to help you to achieve your financial results and why you have such goals on your strategy map. So I assume that you understand how this will help to achieve financial results. Now let's do some KPI job, and let me create some new indicators. Easy to use knowledge base. What might be a login indicator in this case? A login indicator is a kind of indicator that will tell us how many users actually used the knowledge base. So I'm putting self-service completion rate. And how you're going to measure this in your business? It's tough to say. Probably you can use some automation system, some back office systems that will tell how many people accessed your knowledge base and how many people searched for some article in your knowledge base and how many people actually found the answer and how many of them, if we're talking about website, how many of them got to the contact form to get in touch with you. That's the idea. And well, some value here. And I will align this goal with easy to use, align with this KPI with this goal, easy to use knowledge base. So I have here self-service completion rate. And now I have it here. In this case, this will be a login indicator. What about a leading indicator in this case? Actually, I have no idea right now what a leading indicator might be in this case. It probably depends on how your knowledge base is organized, what is the current state of your knowledge base, what current ideas your team has about knowledge base. And actually, if you don't have an indicator here, it's a good starting point to start thinking about this. Yes, go into a team and you say, okay, guys, we have this knowledge base, and we know that it actually helps us to reduce our costs. So let's do some kind of brainstorming. Let's share some ideas about how we can do better. And that's where you start working with your knowledge base. You start working with this KPI. If you don't have a leading KPI yet, it's not a problem. You can you'd better start without some indicators, and starting with some indicators that are not aligned with your business. Now, what about quick and effective conversation between a client and the company? How we're going to measure this one? I suggest to use some indicators. And probably some of them will work for your company as well. The first indicator might be a classical first contact resolution rate. And hopefully in your business it's high, first contact resolution rate. And is it lagging indicator or is it leading indicator? It might be both. It might be a login indicator, as it actually shows how effective is the conversation between your company and your client. But it also might be a leading indicator, and I'll demonstrate you a little bit later what I mean. So I need to go here, link KPI. It will be first contact resolution rate, and I have here, let's use leading indicator for now. And what other indicators can we use? we can add some other indicators, and this might be, let's say, average speed of answer. What value should we put here, and what measure units should we use? Let's use hours as a measure unit, and I assume that this will go for email customer support, and 2 hours is within working hours. So 2 hours is a good indicator, and we need a good value, and we need to minimize it. And to make it fair, what might be a baseline? A baseline might be, let's say, 48 hours. Classical response timeline for big companies. And reducing it to, well, I think 2 hours is pretty good. So might be 1 hour, but who knows? What about other means of contacting your company? Because probably you won't have here more indicators. And actually you can create some new sub-indicators. And you can create several indicators here. One might be for email support, another might be for phone support, another might be for social media, and you can have different indicators here. And then the software will summarize for you all these indicators into one indicator. You can choose what you want to use as a value and as a performance. Should the software use average weighted values or something else? And that's what the software allows you to do, but it's not the purpose now to demonstrate all the features. There are a lot of them. So average speed of answer. And again, I'm going back to this one, and I'm selecting this one here. In this case, again, it might be a leading indicator as well as lagging indicator. And from this context that I want to focus on now, it's leading indicator. Because if we want to a customer to feel like a special client, a special customer, we need to answer fast. And we need to give effective and efficient answers. That's the point. So by now we have this goal with these 2 leading indicators. What about lagging indicators? A typical, a general indicator in this case will be some kind of metric to use to measure satisfaction of the customer. So satisfaction by the customer service, and sure we want to maximize it. Target might be something like 90. And I do need to align this indicator with the business goal as well. Now, in this context, this probably sounds more like a lagging indicator. Oops, lagging, sorry. Yeah, so I'm switching to the strategy map now, and I see all my indicators here. Okay, so probably I want to see here not the progress, but the current value. Which makes more sense for me. And the same for average time. I don't want to see the progress, but the current value. It should be average speed of answer. Yes, here. So I see current values here, and it makes more sense for me. There is a popular indicator called Net Promoter Score, which shows how likely your clients will recommend your product. And I saw some scorecards where people put this indicator on their scorecard, on the strategy scorecard in this case. But for my opinion, the Net Promoter Score correlates a lot with the quality of product, not just with the customer service. So be careful with this. Satisfaction by the customer service will also depends on the quality of the product, but the dependency is not so strong. Now, we have these goals here. What about internal processes? In the internal processes perspective, we need to map the goals that will explain how we're going to achieve this. how we're going to make a knowledge base easy to use, how we're going to ensure a quick and effective conversation between a client and company, and for sure how this all will be aligned with the reducing costs. Now, what goals can we make here? Can we map here? As we discussed, customers want to use this, but they need to have all the articles, all the information there. It needs to be searchable, and well, it depends on what is a knowledge base that you have right now. Probably there are no problems and you don't see any improvement points. Probably you see a lot of improvement points. So it depends on a specific case, and I will map just a general goal, which in this case will be maintain knowledge base up to date. In your case, this might sound more complex. You might have more goals. And how to measure this? How to measure if our knowledge base is up to date? The easiest to use indicator is to measure the percent of materials that are up to date in the knowledge base. And you might ask me about the technical means to do so. And well, there are always the technical means. Simplest one is to just open your customer or open your product manual or whatever knowledge base you have, and just scan the information you have, and you'll find that some of the information is not up to date. Some of the screenshots, if we're talking about software products like this, some of the screenshots are not up to date. Some of the steps are not up to date. Some of the feature information is missing. Some of the information was retired, and so on and so forth. So that's the point. And we measure it here, and we need to align this goal with this indicator. Link and internal process. Now, in this context, is this indicator a leading one or lagging one? Probably it's a leading one. The lagging one might be it might be as well a lagging one. Not really clear in this context. And okay, I need to link these goals with a cause and effect. And what about quick and effective conversation between the client and the company? How can we ensure this? In this case, we're talking about this block here, and two most important roles here are related to our agents, those people who actually work with clients. So in this case, an umbrella goal for this, a general goal for this, might be maintain excellent conditions for agents. And what does it mean? What does it mean, maintaining excellent conditions? Let's go here. Let's create a cause and effect link. What does maintaining? Oh, sorry, this link went wrong. What does it mean to maintain excellent conditions for your agents? Again, it depends on your specific situation. Normally, when we're talking about agents, we're talking about the way to find agent, to train agent, to hire persons that will become agent, to do initial training, to do regular training that you do each quarter, each year, and your agents need to have necessary tools to support your customers, and your agents need to have a certain workload for sure, but this workload should not be high enough so that you don't face the problem of overloaded agents, because if agent is not happy, soon you will find out that the quality of his work is going down, and what is more important, you will find out that turnover rate among your agents is high enough, and you will invest even more in finding and hiring and training your agents. Because if we are talking about the cost structure of the agents that we have there, then actually we'll see that the one of the biggest costs is to find and train agent. Yeah, so hiring costs are the highest, and training costs are higher. For sure, you have managing cost, you have salary, bonuses, etc. But keeping agents happy will actually help to keep the whole business unit working properly. So having this in mind, let's create some indicators to measure this progress towards this goal. One of the leading indicator might be agent training hours, and well, it's measured in hours, and let's put here 10 hours, and probably the plan might be to increase it up to 40 hours if you have any plan. And aligning this indicator with this business goal. And in this case, in this context, in the context of this diagram, the more we invest in training agents, the happy, the better this conversation will be, the happy will be our customers and, well, agents as well. So in this context, as for sure, it's a leading indicator. And what other indicator might be in this case? One of the reasons that agents leave a company, change the job is because of high workload. So let's introduce another indicator which will be agent occupancy and measured in percent, and we want to maximize it to a certain level. But this certain level will be something around 60-75%, probably 70%, to not achieve 100%. We don't want to do this because some research showed that on the level of 70-75% it's good enough, but high it's very stressing for agents. And again, we're going back here to business goal step, and we need to align this goal with this indicator with this goal. And what about other indicators to measure what we need? First of all, we need to have some login indicators in this case. What might be login indicators? The first thing that you can do is to ask agent about what they think. So we can create some kind of agent satisfaction index, which might be really level, for example, 95, and we need to align it with business goal again. And in this case, this indicator will be login one, because obviously it tells us explain us some historical information, explain us how agents were satisfied or not. And we're not influencing this, we're influencing this with these two indicators. And one thing that I don't like about this agent satisfaction indicator is that sometimes it might be confusing. You might ask people about how they feel and they will tell you, it's great, but we're not so good at reading human emotions. So we might find out that people say that everything is good, but they still not happy with the company. So a more obvious indicator, more objective indicator in this case will be turnover rate among. I could put here customer support agent, or I can put here top performers. Top performance in most cases sounds better, because we're not just measuring the turnover rate among all people that are working in the company. We want to focus on the top performance only, because we want to keep top performance in the company, not just all people. Sometimes we hire someone and we feel that this person does not fit the team, and it leaves the company. It's nothing bad about this. So this person should not influence this indicator. It's a problem if top performance leave the company. We measure it in percent, and we need to minimize this turnover rate. And let's put the target 3, and the baseline might be, let's say, 15%. How to measure turnover, it's a different topic. Just search on our website, bcdesigner.com, where we have some articles on this. And that where we explain in the details how to measure it and some best practices about this and other indicators. Now I'm aligning turnover rate with this goal, and it's a lagging indicator in this case. Okay. Now we have here on our strategy map more goals, and now we have left only this perspective. Yeah, actually one productivity tip if you're going to use BC Designer. Instead of switching between these tabs here always, you can do everything directly on the strategy map. You have here 2 buttons, add KPI, add business goal. And actually with these 2 buttons you can work good. We can work without switching to these business tabs constantly. So what about learning and growth perspective? Here we should map the goals that will be related to this goal here and with this goal here in customer perspective. Where should we focus our learning efforts to keep knowledge base up to date? Because when we're talking about knowledge base, we're not just talking about making sure that we reflect all the ideas about our service or product in the knowledge base. It's not that simple. We're talking about making sure that the knowledge base is actually easy to use. The information is presented in the necessary form. Because sometimes we know that there are manuals it's impossible to read. There are knowledge bases that are hard to use. They might include all the information we need, but they are really hard to use. And we don't understand, we don't use them, and instead of using them, we're contacting customer service. So that's the point. And how to formulate it in your case, it depends on you. But I suggest to create a new goal. You have a new goal. And to name it, let's say keep knowledge base align with customer habits. What do I mean by this? By this, I mean that we need to understand what customers actually need from our service. Sorry, I have created a new perspective instead of creating a new goal. So I just move it here. And I think everything is fixed now. Just update it here. Yeah. So we want customers to understand what customers need from us. It might be as simple as customers are now more in Facebooks and we might want to add some knowledge by there. Yeah, just that info. Or we might want to focus the content of the knowledge base on the questions that customer ask. Because sometimes we see that the content of the knowledge base is structured according to some understandings that engineers have about product. Engineers have about the product or the service, but actually the customers, the clients, they don't think in the same way. So it's not necessary that this very structure is the best structure for the customers. So that's the idea about the habits, and there is no strict way to achieve this. And I think if we're going to talk about indicators, it's hard to come up with specific indicator for this business goal. So for now, I will not create any business goal for this any indicators of this business goal. So instead, I will probably add a short text comment in a way of initiative, and I will call it learn from mistakes. So that's what I mean. We do analyze customer behavior in some way, and we're trying to understand what was the reason of certain behavior of the customer, and we're trying to understand what we can do better. In your particular case, you might want to find some indicators, and probably you will find them if you have in mind some specific problem to address, if you have some specific way to act, and that's good. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I leave it as it. Now, what about this goal? We want to focus our learning efforts on something that will help us, our company, to maintain excellent condition for agents. What this might be. Again, in your case, it might be different. There might be different various ideas for this. In the most general case, we'll probably deal with something related to, let's say, providing agents with some better training. I'm not sure what this means in your case, but this is a good umbrella goal, and if you have some specific ideas, that then you might want to use them. I will need to rebuild my map to see my goal, and it looks like my goal was not created. Let me create it here. So provide agents with better training and coaching program. Now here we have the goal. I need to create a logical link. And what about providing agents with better coaching program and better training and coaching program? Just one idea that I do recommend for all clients is to revise informational styles that they might have. So I'm putting here it as an initiative so that you have it in front of your eyes. What does it mean? In your specific case, it might mean different things. For me, it means that after working with customer, we always have something related to some update about the customer behavior, some update about questions that customers normally ask, some update about the best practice to deal with customers. And it is important that your team is able to communicate these ideas to developers, to engineers, to marketing people. And on the other hand, it's important that other departments like engineers and marketing people get back to your agents, improve their training program so that agents understand how to present your product better, how to answer questions better, and how to understand your product and its functions better. So that's the idea. And again, it's better not to use indicators because I have a clear idea about what indicators might be useful in your very case. So I will not use any indicators here. And what can we improve even more? One thing that I believe makes sense improving is to change some of the properties of the business goals. We have a property called strategic theme, which actually helps us a little bit better to explain what is this goal related to. So here I have 3 strategic themes: customer intimacy, operational excellence, product leadership. So I will map some of the goals into the different themes, and we'll see what theme fits better. So easy to use knowledge base, probably it's more related to customer intimacy theme. Now, quick and effective conversation between a client and a company. For me, it sounds like more like operational excellence theme. Now, maintaining knowledge base up to date. It might be operational, but no, it might be also customer intimacy. Now, maintain excellent condition for excellent agents. Might be some different customers. It looks very closer to operational excellence, but let's map it there. Now, keep knowledge base aligned with customers' value. We can use it without theme. Okay, if I go back to the strategy map, I now see that the colors of the goals are a little bit different. This gray is for operational. I have here the legend. It actually explains me that this is for operational excellence. This is the default one without any theme, and this is customer intimacy. So we have it here on this strategy map. We did it, and well, I can save my project again, and I think this is a good starting point for new discussions about the strategy of customer service in your company. And you might use the strategy map and these indicators. You might want to add more data here. One might specify some updates interval for this, to introduce some data for different months, to import some data from Excel or whatever. You can later build some dashboards here, focusing on specific indicators, the way that they behave. For example, some engagement indicator, like in this case, building different dashboards. You can even build more strategy maps, focusing on different aspects of the customers, of how a customer is performing. You can create some process map, business model map, like we did it here before. A lot of things that the software will help you with, and you can always invite more users into your team, so they will be able to contribute to a strategy map, to your business goals, and that's a good starting point for running a discussion about your strategy. Hopefully, this tool with these KPIs, with this strategy map, will become a daily tool on your desktop. And as I mentioned before, you can always do this with a professional version of BC Designer, which is very similar. And actually, I have here a similar map here in the professional version, and you might want to try it in pro version as well. So give it a try. Yeah, and one important thing that if you don't want to repeat all these steps, you can go to our website, to bcdesigner.com, and you can search there for a customer service article, and for sure you will find links to download to assess this template project. To assess this template project here in BC Designer online, and to actually use it to start from it for the purpose of customization for your own customer service project. And we will also include it as a project that is created in new accounts. So when you will start your new account, you will find this project in the list of the default projects that you have in your account. And I think we'll add it as a template project here. You have a customer service. So if you want to start from this project and if you want to start customizing this project for your needs, you can use this option here when you create a new project, and give it a try. Thank you for your attention, and feel free to get back to us with any questions that you might have.